the standard stuff has to come first, and then you can add and build upon it to gain those marginal bits of activity that make you winners, whether that be in business or in sport.
How has your military experience shaped you as a public speaker?
I think my time in the military was diverse enough to give me a real in-depth view of many issues which translate reasonably elegantly into the private sector. And so when I do speak about the experiences I've had in the military, I try and relate them to that of the private world, the private sector world of business, and what it actually means to those that are leading organizations or working within organizations at a senior or middle management level, and how the problems that I've dealt with in the military, albeit in the extreme, there is lessons to be learned which translate across. So in the main, that's what I try to do. So it's not just storytelling for the sake of it, it's storytelling with a purpose that the learning can be utilized effectively within the business world.
How can businesses create positive change within their workplace?
So positive change, that's really interesting. I have a real interest in this, and I think that traditionally change management theories rely on sort of burning platforms or command and control style, leadership style, reward or punishment, compliance, which only is effective in the short term, and you're either on the train or you're not. So I try to look at creating, through intrinsic motivation, a really willingness to be on board with the process. So like plants grow towards the light, this heliotropic effect works within change management as well. So there's work around from a neuroscientist called David Rock that I'm really interested in, and he has a model called the SCARF model, which talks about status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness, and where you try to get the population at risk with this change process to move towards the reward of this model. So I'm really passionate about change. I've been involved in many change programs at a large scale, and I've seen it go wrong and I've seen it go right. And I believe that the work around this modeling about trying to get people to grow towards it and really understand the positive nature of what is being done really is the successful methodology to use. So that's my thoughts on that.
How do you define organisational behaviour, and why is it important?
So that's a really complex question, I think. So the phone usually rings when things are not going well. And usually the symptoms that are being portrayed are not the cause. And unless you understand and frame the issue appropriately, you cannot get a suitable solution to that issue. So behavior that you see is just a symptom in the main of something much deeper within the organization, whether that's culturally or physically with regard to how people are being made to work. But unless you understand and frame that issue, you'll never get the appropriate solution to it. So for me, the way I go and support businesses, that I always start with understanding and framing the issue, and that can, depending on the size of the business, can be either short or medium term bit of activity, but it's absolutely fundamental to getting a right solution. So I never really focus initially on the behaviors. It's all about understanding what is actually really going on.
What can businesses learn from high performance groups like sports and military teams?
So high performance, as you're aware, or you may be aware, I lecture in high performance quite a lot. High performing teams, I do it with the Football Association for the pro license. Those that want to manage at Premier League or international level, I guide them through that process. So I have a real vested interest in high performance, and I feel through some of the work I did in the military, I was able to achieve that. So the fundamentals of high performance, we could talk for longer than you've allocated on this interview, but I think the benefits are absolutely tangible when you get that right, when you get the alignment, when you have a mutual understanding, when you really believe in those that you are supporting and that they believe in you and understand that you really care about them, that you start to grow a commonality, which and a unity of effort, which is really, really important. So, but the polish, the 1% that creates a world-class or high-performing team has to be underpinned by the standard effects. The standard stuff has to come first, and then you can add and build upon it to gain those marginal bits of activity that make you winners, whether that be in business or in sport. So if you underpin with the appropriate attitudes, behaviors, and knowledge, and then start to add the polish after that. So a huge bit of work with any team to get them to high performance. It's a term bandied around really commonly, but actually achieving it is a much more difficult thing. But as I say, if you start with the basics and fundamentals, get the appropriate knowledge, skills, experience, and attitude into the workplace, get people to understand what's required, what good looks like around here, what's important around here, get mutual agreement on that, you can all start shaping people to move in the right direction, for sure.
What do you hope audiences take away from your public speeches?
Well, everyone comes with a different rationale, and everyone searches for something. You know, my experience is that everyone will take away something different. I've been privileged enough to be involved in many different large-scale public sector projects at international level, and work for government in other public sectors. So that experience, I think, provides multiple lessons on predominantly the moral component of an organization. So what makes people turn up and present themselves fully to deliver the best effect for you as a business leader or a business owner? And those top tips, I think, seem to land really well. I never talk about theory unless I've experienced it for real. So every theory that I talk about, and I'm interested in theory because I'm really curious about stuff, but I will only talk about it if I've applied it myself, and I'll talk about how successful that has been or not, because not every project's a winner, but there's always learning from it. So I think it's perhaps the ability to take away that learning with an understanding that how to apply it and the effect that you would get from applying it.